Hello, dear listener. Today I will tell you about 4 short but very scary stories. Sit back, put on your headphones, and turn off the light. Notes of a Madman. July 9th.
But there's nothing here. Poor but clean. Yes, and some local suckers, as soon as they found out that I was an electrician, they immediately allocated a bed. They didn't even ask about the past. There are quite a few chicks here. Let's see how it will be.
July 13th.
The headman's daughter is awesome. She's all plump and juicy. Boobs, everything is big, the way I like it. When she licks her lips, I get hard. And if he washes the floors in the classrooms backwards, he's ready to fuck right away. How to get to her.
July 20th.
I clamped the plug between the floors. As a cultural person, I gave out a compliment about my hair. And I couldn't resist squeezing my boob, and she glared with her blue eyes and shied between her legs. I thought the balls would leak out through my ears. Bitch. But she didn't tell Daddy. So he doesn't mind, he's just showing off. As I understood it, it is not that it is not opened, but not even kissed. The headman is looking after his daughter, a grey-haired goat. And who was she with? Men hug and cry. Picky. I love those who know their worth.
August 12th.
The headman called him in, started a hurdy-gurdy about the hard life of the lonely. At first I didn't move in, then, like a moron, I decided that he wanted to offer me a bonus. My brain has completely dried up. No, it turned out that he was offering to marry Simone. The widow. Simone is thin, bones stick out everywhere, 2 backbites. Her man got drunk 3 years ago. What the fuck do I need her for? You can't even compare it with Victoria, she's in the juice. All you do is fuck around the clock. And this one. But I didn't refuse. I said I'd think about it. Like a lot of responsibility. Should I agree? Vika avoids me, doesn't look me in the eye. Maybe I'll think less about this chain with a woman by my side. The main thing is that the bride gives on demand. But
August 20th.
It's fast here, I didn't expect it. There was a wedding yesterday. Vika came up, congratulated, and flashed her eyes. After all, she wants me absolutely. Well, nothing. The wife is not a wall. She will move. On our wedding night, we went to the basement so that the others wouldn't hear our fucking. Simone, as I thought, whatever, and not a woman. I yell at her, but she doesn't say anything. He only sniffs. At least she screamed, the fish is rotten. I bruised myself from her bony thighs, whether it's the case when a soft girl turns under you. At first it was difficult, but then he introduced Vikusha in place of his wife, tore off for a sweet soul, and then 2 more times. But this, of course, is not the case.
August 30th.
It seems that after my marriage I am even more attracted to Vika. I can't think of anything but her ass. I lift up Simone's skirt 5 times a day, not to mention at night. At least there are a lot of secluded corners in the settlement. In a room in which 20 people snore, you don't really mess around. This fool is already glowing. If you knew who I'm representing instead of you, you'd go to shit. If only I could lure Vika into the basement, I would. Then the handwriting becomes uneven, hurried, illegible.
September 7th.
You're getting married, bitch. And for whom? For a youngster. How old is he? 20. 23. He won't even be able to open it properly. Such a girl must be carefully brought first so that she can ask for it herself, pull her hands, then spread her white thighs, tease with her finger, and then. Further, the text is stained with something. She looks at him like that. She never looked at me like that. I used to think it was an interest, but now I feel like a cockroach under her gaze. Bitch. Well, nothing. I am patient. It's for the best. She'll get used to a dick when she's married. She won't be so scared of mine. Further, the entries are fragmentary, mostly contain uninformative thoughts about Victoria and fantasies about how she performs marital duty.
12th of February.
The cold is brutal. The generator is breathing hard. I almost don't get out of the basement. I fix it all the time. Simone is constantly running to me with food. She doesn't wear panties, you fool. And Vicusia is like this now, like this. True, the fragrance of the bud has gone, it sucks, but it began to smell like something animal, womanly. How lucky this little guy is. I dream about her every night. I'm sure she's not made of wood like my wife. By the way, the merchants came yesterday. The locals were scared at first. They thought it was looters. But I immediately understood what was going on. My buddies and I used to carve up such caravans like nuts. Still, it's a pity that our gang was torn apart by evil spirits. If I were with my own people, and not alone, I would sneeze at the headman and the others. I would have fucked Vika on the first day. Although no, then she would have had to share with the boys and she would have gone crazy. A helicopter is worse than death for such women. Merchants were not allowed to go beyond the high-rise building intended for sorcerers. That's right, there's nothing here. They decomposed at the exit point, and the payment was taken in silver, seeds and chow. More books? What do I not understand at all the meaning? Okay, what kind of reference book, but why do they need Pushkin? That time has passed. Vika walked around the ruins for half a day. Even in her winter clothes, she seems to be the best woman on the planet. Yes, and the posture appeared royal. A difficult husband? I did not expect it. The girl always shows how the man treats her. Although I would have been even better, but she didn't care about me. Bitch.he was hanging around, by the way. I held the handle, you bastard. They say he will replace his father-in-law as headman in a couple of years. Too important for me. Hate. I bought Simone and her Spinogris presents a robot for the boys, a truck and pencils, warm tights for my wife and a washing board. She burst into tears and started kissing me. Then she asked where the wealth came from. So I told her, the fool, what I used to do with my buddies. We need to hide the bag of swag. Well, nobody really goes to the basement except Emmy. One merchant saw how I was looking at Vika. He winked, beckoned, and asked in a whisper.
Do you love her?
What? It's none of your business, freak. He was weird. He spoke pure Russian, and his eyes were black, as if they were squinted. The skin is swarthy. In an ear flap and a sheepskin coat, he looked like a moron. He would have a turban on his head, a saber in his hands, and a horse between his legs. That would be the way it would be. Although it's not me. The caravan was all like that. It's like a camp, but they are definitely not gypsies. I have seen them in the past. That's not it. Anyway, I barked, and he winked and said,
You like her, she's not a stranger. But she could have been yours. Do you want me to help you?
I was about to send it, but Vika glanced at me and nodded. She greeted me as if we hadn't seen each other at breakfast in the morning. Maybe she decided to forgive me for what happened then. It's been so many months. I'm married. She's married. It seems that there is a spark between us after all. Well, what do you have? I asked the merchant. Further, the text is unreadable apparently. Fatty food got on the paper, the letters written in pencil blurred. The effect is observed over many pages.
June 25th.
Simone has a giant belly. Maybe there are twins there? The doctor says I'll be a dad in a couple of months. It's already too hard to fuck her, she's become too clumsy. I finished everything last night. The corner was equipped as it should be. The merchant then said that Vikusa needed to put powder in a hot drink and she would decide for 10 minutes that I was her best friend. During this time you need to get her into the circle that you drew. Honestly, I'm sick of riveting the flooring. It was necessary to be quiet so that no one upstairs would hear. I barely got my wife to crawl into my basement. He said he was afraid he'd fall off the steps and lose the baby. The fool believed me and left me alone. There was iron and glass in the basement. He melted down every last crumb of silver from his reserves. I stole a little from the warehouse. I hope they won't notice soon. And then it won't matter, I'll take a wiki and go somewhere. Won't we find another house? The land that the merchant sold stinks rotten, but that's okay. I'm not picky. In addition, the herbal mixture partially interrupts the stench, although it also has a pungent smell. It already eats out the eyes. I put the roundels in the same place so that they would be at hand at the right moment. I still can't make out the symbols on them when I try to look closely. Everything blurs in my eyes. I don't care, one in my mouth, the other in Vika's mouth. Put her on the floor and fry her, even if she resists, and we will be forever connected. Yes, she will definitely love me. Today, I've waited too long already.
June 25th, evening.
This is a tin. Inaudible. The merchant is a beast, I am his. Inaudible. What to me? Inaudible. The headman. Inaudible. Okay, calm down, schmuck. Put your thoughts together. At first, she dutifully did everything I said. And then, when the effect of the powder was over, I realized that I was not her idiot husband. By that time, he had already ripped off her pants and panties. I didn't think a woman could resist so fiercely. In order not to scream, he put his hand over his mouth. I barely managed to stick my dick in. Everything did not go as it seemed. I've fucked women more than once without their consent, but Vika, that's not how I wanted to be with her, and everything was floating around. The roundness made my mouth bitter. At some point, she went limp. Her eyes stared at the ceiling. I didn't understand right away. And when I realized I couldn't stop, firstly, I was already on the verge. Secondly, the bitterness from my mouth got to my head, and everything became cloudy. She's definitely dead. I give you a tooth. I realized that her lump was stuck in her throat, so she suffocated. It would be better if I simply plucked it out somewhere behind the garden than like this. I wanted to spit out the round piece, but it wasn't in my mouth. It was as if he had disappeared. I looked into Vika's mouth, the same thing. Either the thing sank deeper into the throat, or it dissolved. I don't know. People are not sleeping. They're looking for it. Her man and her dad are completely crazy. At least no one saw her coming down with me. And I'm good that I threw all sorts of clap on the corpse. And I unscrewed the light bulb. You can't see much in the dark. So they're already looking at me. I'm going to help in the search. If I'm lucky and they don't find me before morning, I'll leave right at dawn. It won't work now. Everything is on your ears.
June 26th morning.
The search moved to the stadium. There are only rodents of all ages at school. Even Simone crawled out into the street. I walked around the building and came back. While everything is outside, we need to get out in time. But the stuff is in the basement, and she's there. So, am I a man or what?
June 27th.
She's alive. When I came down, she was sitting on the deck and crying. She said she woke up and I wasn't there, and I was scared. I didn't even think about my husband. The merchant would be right. The goat is right. That's just kind of weird. She asked me not to tell anyone where she was. He doesn't come out of the corner. He wants to fuck all the time. I don't mind, of course, but she's just hungry for this case. Or could the man not satisfy her properly? And the eyes. These eyes tighten, as if they burn through a hole. At 2:00 in the morning, she asked for food. Okay, the warehouse is not far from the basement. I crept in quietly, took dried pork, cucumbers, and brought them. She threw cucumbers at me, chewed the meat and spat it out. She told me to bring her Simone. I still don't understand why. Maybe I should ask her to step aside and let me live normally. Now everyone will have a snack and go to search the area around the settlement. My wife and I are being left at home. This fool was there yesterday. Now her stomach hurts. Okay, if anything, I'll sort it out. Can't I reconcile two women?
June 28th.
Inaudible. I can't. She's hers. Inaudible. Only the bones are left. Now we will look for Simone with the whole settlement. Just don't give yourself away. A couple of times everything blurred around and Vikusia seemed completely different. Wrong. Scary. Only the eyes remained the same.
June 30th.
It's not Vika. This is some kind of bullshit. Today she asked me to bring someone else. I was scared, automatically crossed myself and clearly saw the creature. Only the eyes are from Vikusi. Simone's eyes were there too. Cow-like scared. Today I'm going to fuck off. Besides, people have begun to suspect something. That's just a whisper in my head gets in the way. But I won't give in. Am I a man or who? Inaudible. Somehow my thoughts are sluggish. Inaudible. It is necessary to bring down, urgently. There are more such Vics in my lifetime. Inaudible. Down to her. Inaudible. Next is a drawing showing dozens of eyes. And the love of my life. I will never give up.
July 5th.
I'm sitting in the school office. I don't want to watch. And listen, but there's nothing to plug your ears with. Today is some kind of special full moon. Vikusia asked to leave the basement door open for the night in order to enter into full force. I didn't want to, but she knows how to talk me into it. Darling. Inaudible. How will she do it if she's afraid to leave the corner? Maybe I should peek with one eye. Inaudible. An entertainer. Some kind of harnesses are darting through the corridors and offices, grabbing everyone in a row, tearing them apart and dragging them down the stairs. Blood is gushing. How beautiful. Screams are like music. My happiness.
July 10th.
The basement smells really bad. The supply of bodies will not last long.
July 20th.
She's beautiful. Except when she's angry, the eyes of everyone inside look at me. It's unbearable. Inaudible.
July 25th.
We're out of food. She won't let me in anymore. How am I now without her caresses? The joy of my life. Inaudible.
Unknown date.
Inaudible. He killed a traveler. I ate it. Inaudible. 2 days of happiness. I love fucking her so much.
Unknown date.
We are destined for each other.
Almost all the rest of the text is unreadable. Syllables, letters, and whole words are missing. You can only make out individual phrases, but it is impossible to understand what meaning they carry. There are a huge number of sketches on all the pages, only the eyes in different angles. Eventually, the recordings end. Yellow.
The morning didn't start right away. All that immediately spilled was my coffee on my jeans. Coffee tried to overshadow my day with a burn, but I managed to stop his naked attempts in time. I in the toilet of the coffee shop. The jeans did not return to their pristine appearance. I understood that they would not scold me at work for my appearance, but sidelong glances are provided. I sighed and looked in the mirror. Apart from my tired eyes, which read too many things that had happened, and my stained jeans, I looked pretty good. I didn't want to go home, so as not to listen to my mother's regular scolding about my crookedness, carelessness, and besides, I'm not married yet. My mother was able to combine incompatible things, because I have been struggling with logical chains since childhood. The clothing stores were still closed, and I would hardly have gotten through to my only friend. A cannon shot would not have reached her even if he had rung the doorbell. It was decided to go to work like this, and spend money on new jeans at lunch. In the coffee shop, I didn't notice how the minutes recklessly ran away from me. Already on the street, looking at the phone, I noticed that I had 10 minutes left before the start of the working day. Alas, buses have not yet flown, although we were all looking forward to this innovation, which would improve the life of the city. Or it would, people haven't decided yet. And we still had 50 years to wait, so no one was in a hurry to come up with final conclusions on this issue. I looked around. There was nothing to do. I had to hitch a ride. I began to tremble in the autumn breeze, and the cars ignored my plight, although everything changed when I noticed a yellow spot at the beginning of the street, which was confidently approaching me. I was trying to make out what such a bright thing was following along the road. When this spot decided to answer my call and stopped near me. I lowered my hand, and the car window rolled down.
Girl, where are you going?
I gave the address, and the guy nodded back at me.
Get in, I'll take you. You're probably in a hurry to get to work.
How much?
For free, I'm on my way.
That's how I found myself inside the yellow spot with the guy driver, who, unlike his car, was dressed all in black. The guy was my age and quite pleasant looking, soft features, quick but kind blue eyes. It seems that he barely fit in the driver's seat. His sharp knees were almost at the level of the steering wheel, but this did not prevent him from driving in any way. It wasn't a long drive, and I hoped it would be uneventful. The car was cool and clean, and shadows often flashed over the dashboard, which I suspect were from trees and traffic lights passing by. It was warm inside, and I began to warm up from the street frost. I wrapped my coat more tightly around myself and settled into the back of the passenger seat. The guy decided to diversify the noise of the road by talking.
And who do you work for?
The manager.
Oh, my brother was also a manager. Do they pay well?
Yes, that's enough for me.
It's good when it's like this. My brother didn't like the salary. He suffered for a year in this job and quit. Now it helps me. I'm kind of happy.
And who do you work for?
Well, how can I say? Today I'm letting beautiful girls down.
You don't make much money out of it, I said.
That is? Well, this is for the soul, but as it is, I am the main representative of my native culture.
I shrugged my shoulders at first. A cult, so a cult. But then the meaning of his words came to me, a cult.
Well, yes, we have been here since the foundation of the city. You could say the city was being built around us.
It's great. I'm being driven by a well-respected person, a representative of an ancient cult. I rubbed my hands, and to hell with it, the main thing is to take it. And then he released it. Yes, to release it would be wonderful. I frowned and already expected that they would tell me how wonderful their life was, and that I would be a welcome guest there. But the driver decided to act differently, which made me a little discouraged.
Okay, this is the case. I will not burden you with my work. It is not suitable for everyone. I myself am thinking of moving to a lower position, otherwise there is a lot of responsibility. But the father is swearing. They say, son, you are our reliable. You have taken upon yourself such an honor, so carry it. Parents, everyone thinks they know what's best.
I nodded understandingly in response. It occurred to me that my mother would also send me to a certain cult if they promised me a groom there. And what does your cult worship?
Yes, we do not bow to anyone. We just believe in the good and kind, and we do not keep fictional creatures at home. He smiled in response. We are all adults, and we understand that nothing falls from the sky and golden rivers do not appear so easily.
For a man from a cult, he looked painfully conscious, although this was my first such acquaintance. Maybe they're all shifty and they probably lie well. The shadows above the dashboard seem to sparkle. Maybe he has a disc lying there and reflects the light like that. It looked beautiful. I didn't want to look away. I wanted to touch it. I began to feel sleepy from the warmth. It seemed that I was wrapped in a warm blanket in my native village. I shook my head. I didn't want to fall asleep in a stranger's car.
As soon as I saw you, I immediately realized that you could use something good today. And my neck is just what you need. Her yellow color always lifts my mood, and besides, it gets me where I need to go, although sometimes where I don't need to.
He laughed and reached into the glove compartment. He took out a couple of candies in a yellow wrapper in the color of his car and handed it to me.
Hold it so that you don't get discouraged.
I accepted the sweets, thank you, but I was in no hurry to eat them.
We make them ourselves in the cult. We have such skilled pastry chefs. Try eclairs from them, and you won't be able to eat any more.
I shivered. It sounded like a very nice, but still a threat. But the guy didn't pay attention to me. He just kept telling me about all sorts of sweets that they bake. His story rocked me. It was getting warmer in the car. I thought I could smell freshly baked buns. My eyes were closing. I yawned and wanted to stop resisting sleep. The same voice of the driver pulled me out of my slumber.
Girl, we have arrived. And as much as I would like to continue our journey, it's time for you to go to work.
Indeed, we were standing in the parking lot in front of the business center where I worked. There were 2 minutes left before the start of the working day. I thanked the driver and jumped out of the car. I was ready to skip to the front door as the car window rolled down. Girl, if anything, the address of our cult is on the sweets. It's a little early for you now, but when the time comes, we are waiting for you. Come. For a second I saw a face so similar to the face of the visitor, but it was a shadow, like a reflection, above the dashboard, and the face was distorted by a fanged smile. I staggered and took a few steps away from the car.
Good luck, girl. With these words, the yellow six began to move away from me.
I hurried to work, periodically looking back to see if this guy was following me. Work quickly distracted me from the morning's incident, and it was only at lunch that I was able to exhale and think about what had happened. It was uncomfortable. Now he knows where I work, maybe to the police? But I have no proof, and he didn't seem to be aggressive. But this shadow, what's the big deal? A shadow, like a shadow. The police certainly won't take that into account. Then I remembered about the candy that he gave me. I quickly took them out of my pockets and began checking the address. It's strange. They had my street and house on them, but the apartment is different. But I knew a neighbor from there, a kind-hearted old lady. Her sons often came to her. She has treated us to pies more than once. They are insanely delicious. Moreover, There is nothing to go to the police with. I will ask my friend to meet me today just in case. It will be necessary to tell the neighbour that her address is being used, otherwise it will not be good if she is then asked for the affairs of the cult. I bought jeans for myself at lunchtime. A shopping trip calmed me down, and I decided to have lunch in our dining room. This time I chose tea and soup. A friend called me, and while we were chatting, I drank all my tea, and it was time to go back to work. I hung up the phone and was just getting up from the table when I noticed that there were empty yellow wrappers next to the empty mug and plate. An unfamiliar feeling began to rise inside. It seemed to me that I was suffocating. I didn't remember eating them.
Are you coming? The director is calling everyone to a meeting.
A colleague called out to me, barely taking my eyes off the wrappers. I looked at him and immediately got ready. For some reason, the wrappers stopped bothering me. Now it was calm inside. I think those feathers will always be so calm. I smiled and hurried into the office, my shadow hurrying after me. Only out of the corner of my eyes did I notice that the shadow was 2 steps behind me, and that its fingers ended in sharp claws. It is necessary to go to the neighbour.
Musical demon.
One girl loved music very much. He'll find some new clip and watch it 20 or 30 times. He wakes up in the morning and the first thing he does is turn on some favorite music on his smartphone. He goes to or from school and listens to music. And in class, she hummed to herself some regular hit song. When her cousin went to music school, the girl really wanted to do it too. She imagined that she would definitely become a great musician and singer. She will compose the songs herself, and all the songs, of course, will be hits, and she will be very popular. It took a long time to persuade the parents, but they still agreed to enroll their daughter in a music school. And there, as it turned out, it wasn't much fun. For some reason, it is necessary to learn some notes. The girl looked at her teachers and thought they graduated from music school, and then from the conservatory. Why does no one know about them? The girl asked the solfeggio teacher if she had composed at least one song in her life. The woman, who was already 50 or 100 years old, was embarrassed and replied that it was very difficult, that it took a long time to learn. And then Dad jokingly asked at home if the girl had composed some kind of musical masterpiece. The girl panicked and ran away from home. She walked the streets of the city and thought that she would never return home until she came up with some song of her own. But she couldn't do it. She knew where there were abandoned houses in their town. She spent the night in one of them. In the morning, she began to wander the streets of the city again. She had some money. She used it to buy buns and water. You can hold out like this for a few days. I've been walking all day, but I haven't come up with anything. I spent the night in an old abandoned house again. The next morning, she felt kind of weird. Everything seemed unreal to her, unreal. All people are in a hurry somewhere. Someone is going to school, someone is going to work, but she alone does not care about anything. If only the song would come. But the song didn't come that day either. I spent the night in the same old house again, only it was already cold, and she caught a cold overnight. In the morning, I bought myself a bun with the last of my money. There wasn't enough for water anymore. But it rained heavily at night. There were many puddles, and the girl drank water from one such puddle, kneeling down. She didn't walk by herself all day afterwards. She had a fever, she was delirious, but still didn't want to go home. And in the evening, some unusual sounds began to be heard here and there. Piles are being hammered at a construction site. It seems to the girl that drums are pounding. Someone nearby said, 37 rubles, and the girl had this phrase stuck in her head like a chorus, 37 rubles. 37 rubles, the shop door creaked. The girl thought she heard a violin. The tram rang. It seemed to the girl that it was a guitar singing. So the girl walked around the city and collected her song from different sounds. When a car drove through a puddle nearby, the girl heard the sound of applause. The girl realized that she had finally composed a hit and would soon become popular. Satisfied, she ran home. But the closer she got to home, the less the song stayed in her head. The girl realized that she would soon forget her, and it would be terrible. If the girl understood the notes, she would have recorded this music. But she couldn't. Then she came up with the idea to sing this music. The girl turned on her smartphone. She did not even read all the messages that came to her. She turned on the dictaphone application and began to sing. began to depict the sound of drums, the sound of a violin, the sound of a guitar, but it turned out very badly. The girl realized that she would not be able to record the song. And then she got a message from her cousin. "I know where you can record your song. Cemetery Records Company." Come at midnight, the girl was not at all surprised that her cousin knew about everything. She only thought that this was a chance to save her song. She did not return home. The girl was afraid that she would go to bed, fall asleep, and forget everything. She returned to her hiding place, waited for nightfall, and went to the cemetery. The girl fearlessly walked along the path among the graves until she came across the musicians in the darkest and most terrible corner. They were skeletons in black suits. They greeted each other politely, said they would be happy to record the song. They really liked it. They began to play it, the very song. And then something happened to the girl again. She suddenly became the same again. She came to her senses and was terribly scared. What is she doing here at night in the cemetery? She was listening to the orchestra. It was playing her song, but it was a terrible song, but some kind of noise, not music. And then the moon came out from behind a cloud. A girl came out into the moonlight. It was a cousin. She opened her mouth and began to scream terribly. 37 rubles. 37 rubles. From this cry, the girl's chest ached. She fell and died. She fell on a fresh grave. In the moonlight, she managed to see a photo. It was her cousin, and the date of death, today's date. She was also lured by a musical demon, the girl realized.
Fireplace.
One day, a 7-year-old boy stayed at home alone all night. It happened by accident. Late at night, when Dad was showering, Mom was urgently called to work. There was some kind of fire. A lot of important papers burned down. Mom got scared, packed up quickly, got into her car and drove away. And when Dad got out of the shower, he suddenly got a call from an old army comrade whom he hadn't seen for a long time. This friend was passing through the city, offered to sit and drink beer. Dad was delighted, quickly packed up, got into his car and drove off. The parents did not realize that their son was left alone at home. And when the boy realized this, he became afraid. He called his parents, but they did not answer. They were busy with their own, more important things. The boy began to look for a place in the apartment where it was not so scary. I settled into the living room. I turned on the screensaver with the fireplace on the TV, covered myself with a blanket, but made a small crack to see the fire in the fireplace. It seemed safer that way. After a while, a mosquito squeak was heard. The window in the living room was open, so a mosquito flew through it. We need to close the window, the boy thought. In case bandits climbed through it, he got up and closed the window. A mosquito was flying right in front of his eyes. The boy waved away the mosquito. But then, an incredible thing happened. A trickle of flame appeared in the air, well, about the size of a candle flame. This trickle burned the boy's hand and disappeared. The boy did not understand anything, and was not even a bit scared at first. He sat down on the sofa and was about to cover himself with the blanket again when a mosquito landed on his knee. An ordinary-looking mosquito. The boy had already raised his hand to slap him, but then a flame burst right out of the mosquito. The fire burned a hole in his pants, and then the boy was really scared. Screaming, he ran into his room and hid under the bed there. About 5 minutes later, the buzzing was heard again. A light flashed in the dark, and the heel became very painful. It burned. The boy ran into the kitchen, but a mosquito found him there too. Now the boy has suffered a finger on his hand. He ran around the apartment, but the evil mosquito found him everywhere. The boy guessed that it was possible to escape from the fire in the bathroom. There's a lot of water there. When the mosquito flew in, the boy turned the shower on it. Steam started to rise. But the mosquito did not give up. He attacked from left and right, from above and below. The boy shot back at him with water. Finally, the mosquito got tired and flew away somewhere. Of course, the parents did not believe in any fire-breathing mosquito, but the boy was not scolded for filling everything with water and trashing the apartment. It was their own fault. A few days later, the boy woke up at night from a strong buzzing. He's looking, and there's some kind of big insect like a dragonfly hanging over his bed. The boy looked closely, and this is not a dragonfly at all, but a tiny dragon. This dragon opened its little mouth and puffed fire. He puffed so hard that the boy's whole face burned and he went blind. Once there were dragons on Earth, but then they disappeared. But their larvae are still preserved somewhere in the ice. Sometimes these larvae warm up in the sun and come to life. So this little dragon came to life. He had just been born and was as small as a mosquito. He saw a burning fire in the boy's window and thought that his mother was there.